The divine angel and the divine Messiah, or I should say just the angel and the divine Messiah. Good morning. So glad you were here. Thank you so much for being with me. It is a pleasure, a joy, and a great honor to be with you. I hope everybody's having a great day. This is the second day of the Aliyah, the second day of the week. Yom Sheni, as we're moving forward towards the wonderful and awesome and amazing Shabbat. This is, by the way, also the last parashah of the book of Breishis. And so we'll be moving on, of course, from Breishis after this week to Shemot, where we just go from great to greater. And looking forward to that. Today's going to be a fun Aliyah, I think. I hope, I pray. Because we're going to be looking at this blessing that Yaakov, he's about to pass away. Jacob is about to die. And so he calls Joseph to him, and he wants to not just bless Ephraim and Manasseh, but elevate them to the status of tribes, which is a whole nother level, no pun intended. But seriously, he wants to make them not just grandsons, but actually as if they were his own sons. So we bless our sons, by the way, by the name Ephraim and Manasseh. Now, historically, Ephraim turns out, in general, the tribe of Ephraim, not the person Ephraim. And I think this is where I'm about to answer the question. Why do we bless our sons like Ephraim and Manasseh when Ephraim's history is not all that great? Well, I think that we have to make a distinction between the person Ephraim as opposed to the prodigy of Ephraim and the tribe of Ephraim. Because Ephraim, the tribe, which will become synonymous with the northern kingdom, is a reprobate. The tribe itself. I'm talking about the spiritual legacy of Ephraim. This is why I tell, there's a huge movement called Hebrew Roots. And within that movement, there are hundreds, perhaps thousands of holy sparks that need to stop being a Hebrew root and become a Lapid Jew. And they will. And God willing, Hashem will help us to help them make that transition. The history of the Hebrew Roots movement, I actually met the person who more or less started it, which is interesting. But anyway, that was a long time ago. And it started from it started as a movement that came about because it was rejected by Messianic Judaism. So, Messianic Judaism is Christianity. The purpose of Messianic Judaism is to get Jews saved and make them Christians. And along come Gentiles to the Messianic movement, attracted to the Torah, as they should be, only to be told, you're not Jews, you're not supposed to keep the Torah, go away. And so there was this sense of rejection. I'm making a very long story extremely short. And so the Hebrew Roots movement is birthed out of rejection. And so what the Hebrew Roots people did, because they too are Christians, they are Paulinian 100%. Trust me, very strong Paulinian, almost stronger than the Messianic Christians, if that were possible. But in any case, because they're Paulinian, and everybody, listen, you don't have to reject Yeshua to become a Jew, but you do have to reject Paul. Yes, you do. And a lot of people, what's really interesting to me is that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. Like I've had, it's interesting because if you don't mind me kind of deviating for a second here, I've actually known people who have flirted with the idea of denying Yeshua in order to become a Jew so they can be fully accepted, or like kind of putting him on the back burner or kind of throwing him under the bus, like don't ask, don't tell kind of a thing, kind of in any way, shape, or form. There's an interesting spiritual phenomenon where people seemingly can be willing to kind of fudge a little bit on the Messiah thing. But when it comes to Paul, they will never deny him. Boy, you better believe it. They will die on hill number 7 for him. It's just it's an interesting phenomenon to me, and I often look at those kinds of things as deeply spiritual, and ask the proverbial questions: why? Like, why is it that you're kind of like, you know what? I might kind of like ditch Messiah Yeshua for the sake of Judaism, or at the very least, kind of like downplay him, or like kind of like forget to mention that I believe in him. But when it comes to Paul, you ask me to ditch Paul, and you're a heretic. I'm out. You know, it's. Have any of you? Am I the only one? Or is that? I'm serious. Is it just me, or does that? Have you run into that as well? But anyway, going back to the Hebrew roots. So, in the question of Ephraim, so the Hebrew roots people was all birthed out of rejection and jealousy. I know. You thought it was birthed because somebody studied the Bible. Well, they did. They studied the Bible from a Paulinian filter, and they figured out that Gentiles can have access to the covenant and blah, 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 blah. And not only that, but Gentiles now get to reinvent Torah observance, tell the Jewish people that you're wrong in all that you do, and that you're not following this correctly. And we are now going to tell you what your scriptures mean as Gentile Torah keepers. So you thought meat and dairy was a thing to be separated. We are here as the Gentile Torah keepers to tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. We're here to tell you what the name of the divine Messiah is. We're here to tell you and go basically to rip apart Judaism and tell you that you've been misinterpreting it for 3,000 years. We just learned about it last week, and we are here to tell you that you've gotten this all wrong for the last. And I know you got Torah scholars who wrote volumes upon volumes, but all of that you understand is witchcraft. We are here to tell you that we know what's best. In fact, let me bring in Fritz and Frank over here, who are going to now tell you this. I mean, it's silly, right? Of course it is. And if you are a holy spark and you're in this movement, you're listening to me right now, and you know what I'm saying is 100% fact, and you know it to be true. Okay, so, but they've taken upon themselves the idea of Ephraim, and the problem with Ephraim is that the spirit of Ephraim that was developed was a spirit of sedition, a spirit of rebellion, a spirit of, wait for it, rejection of Torah, rejection of the king of Israel, David, rejection of the place of Torah, the temple, the Jerusalem. They set up a idolatry. Ephraim was known for idolatry and idolatrous behavior and beliefs. It was almost like chronic within the spirit, if you will, of Ephraim. They changed the wait. They changed the calendar. They had their own count. They rejected the calendar of the king of Israel, the Jews. They rejected the term Jew because they didn't. Why did they reject the term Jew? Why? Because they rejected the throne of David. They wanted their own kingdom. And of course, they were exiled first, and they had the most egregious punishment by God, and they're scattered to the four winds. And it's, in other words, what I'm trying to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a good legacy. Please stop referring to yourself as Ephraim. First of all, you're not. Okay, can I just help you with that? You are not Ephraim. You're not. Period. Okay, you're not. Stop. But stop calling down upon yourself this spirit. It's not good. I'm trying to help you right now, okay? Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why do Jewish people, by the way, a Jew is from any tribe. You can be a Jew from the tribe of Ephraim. You can be a Jew from the tribe of Asher. I digress. Why do Jews bless themselves and their children by Ephraim and Manasseh? The answer is because there's a difference between the person and the legacy. The person of Ephraim was a great person. So was Manasseh, by the way. Why? What made them great? What made them great is that they existed in the world of paganism, and yet they remained Jewish. They didn't reinvent Torah. Okay, one last thing on this, and then we're going to move on to the next point of our study today. Interestingly, when Jacob, and this is for all of you people out there that are Hebrew roots people and you think you're Ephraim, you're not, and you don't want to be, by the way. I'm trying to help you. You think that you want to completely reinterpret Torah. So when Jacob shows up, this is going to be an awesome thing, right? Jacob's on a completely different calendar than you. He wears kosher tzitzit. You wear rainbow seats. I mean, it's all messed up. He wears tefillin, you don't. Now, all this kind of, you think this is going to be a happy meeting, right? Well, is that the pattern? Answer: of course not. When Jacob showed up to meet Joseph, what he was most concerned with was Joseph still living by the Torah that he learned in his father's house? Because that's the only means by which Joseph would truly be alive. Because if Joseph had gone to Egypt and left his Judaism, then he might have been physically alive, but he wasn't really alive. So Jacob comes to Mitzrayim, and I know that Daniel covered this, and also Zach and Yagal covered it as well last week. But when Jacob came to Egypt, what he found is that Joseph still remembered the Torah teachings and the Torah practices that he had learned in his father's house. The same ones. He didn't reinterpret. Hey, Dad, I got to Egypt. You know what I figured out? What? We can do things completely differently. Is that what happened? No. All right. So going back, I just want to answer the question because it has been asked before. Why do we do this if they're so bad? And that's the answer. Okay. You don't want to be Ephraim, the tribe. You want to be Ephraim, the person. You understand? Okay. Please stop calling yourself. Please do not. I'm telling you right now. I just feel the unction right now to tell you this one more time, because I know people watch this program from all walks of life, and many of them are Hebrew roots people. They're watching in secret because if they want to become a Jew, but if they tell people they want to become a Jew, they'll be ostracized by their community. And I know it's okay. You do not want to call yourself Ephraim. Calling yourself Ephraim calls upon yourselves the demons. Yes, demons that afflicted that kingdom. Please don't do that. Okay? All right. Now, sorry, I just felt the unction this morning to help some people get loosed from demonic oppression. Stop calling demons upon yourself. Okay, please. We have enough problems already in our walk of life without doing that. All right, so I want to read this insight to you because I want to focus this for the remainder of our time on this issue of the angel who redeemed me from all trouble and all sin and so forth. We're going to look at that. But I want to say this because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but in Judaism today, there's this this struggle with the fact that the Messiah is divine or can't be divine. He has to be, because if he's divine, then, he has to be human. Otherwise, the idea is that if the Messiah is divine, has a divine nature, is a manifestation of Hashem or something like that, then if we believe that, the idea amongst Judaism today is that we have therefore created a second deity, God forbid, and it's idolatry. Okay. Well, this morning I want to tell you that that's absurd. And all we have to do is look no further than our Kabbalistic sod level teachings of Judaism to find out that we do this all the time. Okay. And as an example, the Shekinah of God, which is the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the same thing. We teach in Judaism that God is in heaven, Shemaim, and the Ruach HaKodesh, the Shekinah of God, is with us in exile. But wait, the Shekinah of God is God, right? Yeah, of course, right. Well, are there two deities? Well, of course not. Well, how can God be in exile? Exactly. You see what I mean? But wait, it gets better. Okay. Well, let me just say from the forefront here that the idea that just because you believe the Mashiach is of divine origin, divine nature, divine manifestation, that does not necessarily make him a second deity. Okay. And he's not. And so we're going to explore this by using our passage here today, as well as looking at the passage it is linked to, which all the commentators say, if you want to understand this, you need to go to Exodus chapter 23 and verse 20, which we're going to do today, God willing. Now, but I do want to say this point, because the idea in Judaism is, and this boggles my mind, okay, and that is the Messiah is going to be just a human being. First of all, on a practical and logical note, that's just ridiculous. Everything that the Messiah needs to accomplish cannot be accomplished by a human being. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just looking at it just logically, pragmatically, it's absurd to think that a human being, a normal, everyday human being, is going to come and do what the Messiah. It's just not going to happen. It will not happen. The greatest human being who's ever walked the planet and was a prophet. I'm not talking about the Mashiach. I'm talking about the greatest man. The man born of a man and a woman was Moses. Anybody greater than Moses? No. Anybody walked around in the fourth dimension of heaven? No. I mean, burning bush, bringing down the Torah. I mean, come on. Anybody great? Any man greater than Moses? No. Was Moses able to save us? I mean, he could have. Was he? Was that man, Moses, able to fully redeem us? Answer: no. We should have. We should have been able to go from Egypt right into the Messianic era. That's what the sages say. Was Moses able to save us? No. So what makes us think that some other man is going to show up and do better than Moses? But there's a principle even beyond that logical thinking. Because that's logic, okay? And not everybody likes logic, because sometimes we want, anyway, sometimes there's this idea that if our theology is not logical, then somehow that makes it right, which of course is silly, but there's plenty of people who think that. No, it can't be logical. In fact, the fact that it's illogical is what makes it spiritual. That's dumb. But a lot of people think that way. So let's look at it from a spiritual point of view. So there's a principle within Judaism that, well, first of all, the Bible makes it clear. The book of Psalms, in fact, Rebbe Singh just read this Psalm yesterday or day before, but it explicitly says that salvation is found in no man. Do we need to go in beyond that? Salvation is found in no human. Do we need to say any more? But nevertheless, we read stuff like that, and then we say, oh yeah, but that doesn't count for them. I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So the idea is, in the rabbinic principle is, a prisoner cannot save himself. Why? Because he's in prison. So you need somebody from the outside to bust you out of jail. Has anybody not seen a cowboy western show where they bust the guy out of jail? You can't bust yourself out of jail. Why? Because you're in jail. So the spiritual idea is you need somebody to bust you out. So in the Keo Tumash is interesting because it talks about Joseph. Joseph, it talks about here, was the one who embodies the ability to descend into the material realm and elevate the sparks of the holiness therein. That was Joseph's mission. But it says here, Jacob provided a different sort of spiritual power. Okay, so in this sense, Joseph is in the spiritual types I'm looking at here. Joseph represents the Messiah, son of Joseph, the suffering Messiah, the one who comes down into the material world in order to elevate the holy sparks. That's me and you, or you and me. Jacob, in this sense, represents the Mashiach ben David, who who actually comes in and is able to bring those holy sparks up and out of the physical world. Okay. All right. So this is what it says. Jacob provided a different sort of spiritual power. Our sages tell us that a captive cannot free himself from prison. Someone on the outside must liberate him. In addition to the merit of Joseph, the integrationist, the Jews also needed the merit of Joseph, an isolationist, to leave and ultimately elevate Egypt. The Jews needed to be connected to a spiritual power that absolutely transcends Egypt, a consciousness in which Egypt does not exist. Jacob therefore had to remain distant and above Egypt in order to save those who were in Egypt. So we're looking here at the concept that Egypt represents the world, the terrestrial world, and Jacob represents the Messiah ben David, who is above that terrestrial world, i.e. divine and not a human being. And he therefore, because he's an isolationist, meaning that he's not part of this creation, has the power to come in and save people who are in the creation, that is the prison. It's not that complicated, okay? But I want to bring that out. That's why we believe in the divine Messiah, amongst other things. Now, I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sources here about what I'm going to talk to you about next, which happens to be the blessing of the angel that redeemed me from all trouble. So in chapter 48 and verses 15 and 16, Jacob gives this blessing to his sons. He says, Jacob blessed Joseph and said, the God before whom my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, walked, the God who has been my shepherd from my inception unto this day, the angel who delivered me from all evil, may he bless these lads. May they bear my name along with the names of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and may they be like fish, becoming many within the land. Interesting there's some insights to fish we might get to, maybe not. But the point I want to make really quickly about the fish thing is it's interesting to me because the symbol of the fish, we don't use it as Lapid Jews. We could, though. It's a Torah-true symbol, the fish, because the fish is a symbol that was used to speak of Jewish people. We're like fishes, which is why I eat, fish on my pizza, anchovies on pizza, because of this reason. It's deeply spiritual. Actually, it's not. That's not true at all. I just like anchovies on pizza. But now that I think about it, it is also deeply spiritual. But in any case, the reason that we don't use the fish symbol, of course, is because it was co-opted by Christians. And so when anybody sees the fish symbol, they automatically think, oh, you're a Christian, like as in the Greek Roman, that's funny. Greek Roman, religion. And naturally, we're not at all, thank God. But we don't want anybody to think that. So therefore, we don't use it. But I did want to mention that it is, in fact, a Jewish symbol. I don't think we'll get to insights on the fish part today, but I wanted to mention that. So the question becomes, who is this angel, right? And there's plenty of insights we could look at it on a Peshat level, that he's talking about just an angel, as it were. But I don't want to focus on those. I don't have the time to focus on those this morning. But I wanted to look at on the Kabbalistic level, on the Sod level. I want to go back to answering the question: how can you believe in a divine Messiah? We can believe in a divine Messiah. We can believe that Messiah Yeshua is the manifestation of Hashem in the same sense that the Kabbalistic idea of this angel exists. Okay, and here it is, like that. Hopefully, it'll make sense when I share it with you. Ma'am Loez says, there was always an angel whom God had sent to me to deliver me from all evil. And it says here, this angel was nothing other than a manifestation of the divine presence. Let me say that again. So we're not talking here about an angel. Jacob is not talking here about an angel like Michael or Gabriel or Raphael or Uriel or some other angel. He's talking here about a different type of angel. And by the way, I want to use angel here in air quotes, okay? Because When I say angel, naturally, some people say, do you think that are you saying that Messiah Yeshua was an angel? No, he wasn't. But you have to understand in the Jewish mind, when you don't have a descriptive word about a divine being that is God, but isn't God, but is God, you don't have any other word to use but angel. There's nothing. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I want you to understand that this is a very deep mystical concept, and you have to kind of put air quotes around angel. Like, it's not like a literal angel. Okay. So but what it's saying here is the angel was nothing other than the manifestation of the divine presence. Now, the divine presence is the Shekinah, okay, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. That is the divine presence. You have to understand that. Now, the question is, what, or perhaps who, is the manifestation of the divine presence? So let's look at Rabbeinu Bachya on this text. It says here that at a simplistic view, it says the reading, without reading between the lines, the message of the Torah is that the true blessing a person can experience in this is that his sons, that is his children, are being blessed, and so forth. But reading between the lines, Rabbeinu Bachya says a Kabbalistic approach is that what Jacob is doing here is he's conferring upon the sons, and therefore Joseph, the divine emanation, the name of the divine emanations. Okay. He says, he concludes his blessings with the words Ha Malach Ha Goel. That is the angel of redemption. That's what the word literally means, by the way. It says Ha Malach Ha Goel, the angel of redemption. We are looking forward to the Geula, which is the redemption. So this is the redeeming angel, is what it's saying here. Okay. The angel who redeems me, may they proliferate like the fish of the land. It says the word bekarov is analogous to, okay, ki sheme bekarovo, for my name is present within him. And this is an allusion. Rabbeinu Bachya here is saying this is a reference, an allusion to Exodus 23 and verse 21. Okay, so let's look at that. Exodus 23 and verse 21. We're going to look at Rabbeinu Bachya's, but first, before we go to Rabbeinu Bachya, we're going to look at Ramban, not Rambam, but Ramban. So Ramban writes, behold, I send an angel before you. Beware of him, hearken to his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not forgive your willful sin, for my name is within him. So what Rabbeinu Bachya just did is he said that the Hebrew verbiage in this passage in Genesis chapter 48 and verse 16 is pointing back or pointing forward to Exodus chapter 23 and verse 21, where it says, for my name is within him. This is how we're going to identify who or what this angel is. So it says, here the Israelites were informed that they were destined to sin in the incident of the golden calf, and the Shekinah would say to them at that time, because I shall not ascend among you, for my name is within him. This phrase refers back to the beginning of the words of the verse, beware of him, because my name is associated with him. Our sages expound, the angel is Memtet, whose name is like that of his master, Sanhedrin 38b. That is to say that Memtet has the numerical value of 314, which is equivalent to the name Shaddai, which is, of course, one of God's names. You will notice for those of you who have mezuzot on your doors, that every mezuzah has a sheen on it. Okay. some of the mezuzot, actually, that sheen, by the way, is supposed to be a symbolic of the name Shaddai. Some mezuzot actually spell the name Shaddai, Sheen Dalet Yud. So therefore, on our doorways, the front doors of our houses, the back doors of our houses, our bedrooms, and so forth. In the case of the synagogue, all the rooms in the synagogue, they all have the name Shaddai on it, which means that we have the name of God on our homes and on our businesses and so forth. Okay. Now, what's interesting is that is a name of God. It's not the personal, tetragrammaton, naturally. But that name Shaddai is particularly associated with Memtet, who is the manifestation of the divine presence. So Memtet literally is, you have to understand, Memtet. Who's Memtet? Well, Memtet ultimately is Yeshua. But Memtet in this context is the manifestation of the Holy Spirit. Okay? And his name, not coincidentally, is numerically associated with the same as Shaddai. And so as a Jew, when you have your mezuzah on the door, the sages teach that the mezuzah it's like saying that Hashem is literally guarding and protecting your home. Okay? So let's look at Rabbeinu Bachya here and see what he says. Let me open up here to this particular insight. Remember that our focus is looking at this angel, this being, as a divine Messiah. Hey, Anna, welcome. Glad you're here. Listen, we are Jews who believe in Messiah. We do not celebrate Christmas at all. It's a pagan holiday. But we have a playlist on this channel that you can learn all about that. Maybe somebody can go grab that playlist and clip it here. But Anna, I for sure will put it in the comments after the fact so that you can check it out. We don't celebrate Christmas at all, but thank you for your well wishes nonetheless. Hopefully you can look at those videos and see. So thank you for being here. Anyhow, I just want to point that out because maybe because of the day of the week it is, people may have that same idea. All right, so let's look at this. So Rabbeinu Bachya says the words here I will send a messenger ahead of you to protect you, do not refer to a disembodied being, which we usually call an angel. Okay, so Rabbeinu Bachya is saying, look, this is a unique being. This is not an angel. What that Yaakov is talking about. And I don't want you to get lost in the proverbial sauce here. Let me just reiterate that we're answering the question: how, as Jews who believe in Torah, believe in the oral Torah, how can we believe that the Messiah is divine? I mean, doesn't that contradict Judaism? Because if you have a divine being outside of God, don't you automatically have two deities? And our answer to that is, of course, no. And the way that we're rebutting rather that concept is by using Jewish sources. So in this case, Jacob is talking about an angel. He's conferring this angel upon Joseph and saying, may this angel, the one who redeemed me from all trouble, bless these lads. Well, who's the angel? The angel is a being. The angel in this case is a being who happens to be the manifestation of the Shekinah of God. Does Jacob believe in two gods? Well, of course not. And that's my point. Okay. So it says these angels, though disembodied, are sometimes sinful, as we know from Job 4:18. And he cast reproach against his angels. The reproach concerned the fact that these angels, in saying to Lot, Genesis 19:3, we are about to destroy the city, meaning that when they said that to Lot, they kind of implied that we're going to destroy the city when in fact God was going to do it. Made it appear as if they were themselves going to carry out the judgment. Rather, the ancient God is speaking about in our verse here is one of those known as Netiot, a superior kind of angel who is not subject to sin. So now we're talking about an angel who is sinless, not subject to sin. Okay. This is why Tanchuma Mishpatim 18 explains the words, for he will not forgive your sins, because he belongs to the category of those who do not sin. This is the angel Memtet, the one appointed to generally run God's universe on his behalf. He is also known in Kabbalistic lore as Sar HaPanim, or the minister of the face. Could be also interpreted the minister of the interior, meaning that. So Sar HaPanim is literally the minister of the face, like the face of his presence. But it also could mean the minister of the interior, meaning the prince who's in charge of everything. Now, you have to understand what this is saying. This is saying that Memtet is the manifestation of the divine presence, and he has been put in charge of the universe, not Earth and the moon, not our galaxy, but the universe. All the places that Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock and Bones travel to, Nebulous 6 and Ryan 3 and so forth, the Klingon Empire, the Romulan Empire, all of it is completely and totally controlled and managed by this one being. Okay? So when it says, when the Torah says in the verse 23, my angel will walk ahead of you, this reference to my angel indicates that it is the one most beloved of God. So this is the angel who is above all the other angels. In fact, the 4 archangels are known in rabbinic concepts as kings. Memtet is the king who rules over those kings. Literally, therefore, Memtet is known as the King of Kings. Okay? So my angel indicates the one that is most beloved by God. It just has to be the one who's most beloved by God. The one by means of whom God has become well known in the world. So we know God because of this angel. That's what it's saying here. If Yeshua said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Okay. It is about this angel that the Torah says in chapter 33 and verse 14 of Exodus, my presence will go. So this angel is the presence of God. In response to Moses' request in 33:14, please let me know, that is, understand your ways. Moses requested an attribute by means of which God had manifested himself. And he was told, Peni Yelokul, that indeed this attribute would travel alongside the Jewish people. In other words, what it's saying here is that when Moses requested of God, let me know who you are, let me understand who you are, God said, okay, let my presence go before you, i.e. this angel. In other words, if you know this angel, Memtet, the manifestation of Shekinah, then you will in fact know me. Which is why we have in the Gospels, the disciples said, how can we know the Father when we haven't seen him? And Yeshua says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. In other words, if you know me, you know him. Why? Because I'm the angel of the presence. Goes on to say, this is what was had in mind in Isaiah 63:9 when it said, and the angel known as Penia, his presence. In order to make this point clearer, God says in verse 22, I will be the enemy of your enemies by means of this angel. And the Torah continues, and I will annihilate him. It requires the attribute of justice to completely annihilate the enemies. As to this agent being called Malach, we must appreciate that this is not a reference to a disembodied being, because it is used to be active in our terrestrial part of the universe on a regular basis. In other words, it is a manifestation of the attribute of justice. This is why it says when Mashiach returns, he will come and he will rule. In what sense does that mean, rule? It means to rule as in the form of justice. Why? Because he's the manifestation of justice and judgment. Goes on to say, in other words, this angel and I myself are quite inseparable. We, in fact, are one with another. This is what it says in Rabbeinu Bachya's commentary. God is saying that me and this angel are the one. In fact, he goes on to say here in Rabbeinu Bachya's commentary, the message is that anyone who rebels against this angel is, in fact, rebelling against me, seeing that my name is, in fact, within him. Goes on to say, there's more to read here. In fact, I may come back and read some of this tomorrow. We're out of time now, but he's saying that this angel is, in fact, the manifestation of my glory on the earth. So this answers the question, how can we as Jews who believe in Yeshua believe in a divine Messiah? Isn't that contradictory to Torah? Doesn't that necessarily create two deities? God forbid. And the answer, of course, is no. Not unless we want to believe that Jacob believed in two deities, which of course is ridiculous. Now, somebody might say, well, I don't understand. I'm having a difficult time wrapping my head around, I'm a Jew I'm talking about, someone who understands Torah. I'm having a difficult time understanding this concept of how this angel and God could be one and the same, and so on and so forth. You know what, friends? We're not supposed to be able to understand all the mysteries in the universe, and it's okay that we don't. It's okay that we don't. We can have, we don't have to have all the answers. And what sometimes we may not know what something is, but we know what it isn't. We know that this angel is not just an angel. That's crystal clear. In fact, the commentaries tell us it's 100% it's not. We may not be able to understand the full nature or wrap our head around, but that's okay. We can understand what it's not. We know that Yeshua is not a human being only. We know that can't be true. It's just impossible. But even the sages write that the spirit of the Messiah hovered over the waters of the deep during the first weeks, the first day of creation. How can that be a human spirit? And someone say, well, it's a human man, but it's a divine spirit in the man. Therefore, it was a divine spirit hovering over the water. Therefore, come on, guys, we're playing semantical games now. This is how we know that the Messiah is divine from this passage, this angel that went before Yaakov. And this is the mystery we're understanding today. End of our Aliyah. Thank you so much for being here. I am glad that you are here. Thank you so much for being here and learning. I'm going to put that link to the playlist on the pagan holiday of Christmas, because it is December 25th, and naturally there will be people who plug into this video and wonder if we celebrate Christmas as believers in Yeshua. And the answer is emphatically no. But but you can learn why, and hopefully you'll ditch that as well, because it has no basis in the Bible or history or reality. It has nothing to do with the Messiah whatsoever. So anyway, you can watch those videos. There's several of them, and learn about that. So thank you so much for being here. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, have a great and amazing day. Shalom Aleichem to all of you.